Welcome to the webinar organized by Department of Commerce of Sree College, Nattika, in association with IQAC of the college and in academic collaboration with the Kerala State Higher Education Council. For the formal welcoming of gathering, I would like to welcome Head of the Department of Commerce, Srimati Praveena Vijayan. Teacher.
Yes, Srila. Respected Principal, Dr. Reena Ravindran, Resource Person of the Day, Dr. Gabriel Simon Thurtle, Dean of Faculty of Commerce, University of Kerala, our IQAC Coordinator, Dr. Shankaran KK, faculty members from various institutions and colleges, research scholars, and my dear students. It's indeed a proud moment for our department to host this national webinar series on Developing India 75. It is being conducted in collaboration with Kerala State Higher Education Council. In order to commemorate the 75 years of India's freedom, which is being celebrated all over the country under the title Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. Today, we start with our webinar series. It is a 7 days program and starts from 4th and ends on 13th of September. And eminent personalities are dealing each and every session. It's a 1 hour session each day. This is the formal inaugural meeting. It is being presided over by Dr. Reena Ravindran, our principal. On behalf of Department of Commerce, I welcome you, ma'am, to this program.
Thank you, Praveena. Good morning, all.
Our resource person of the day, Dr. Gabriel Simon Thurtle, Dean of Faculty of Commerce, who is the inspiration, motivation, and above all the support given to us for this webinar series. On behalf of all the faculty members and students of Sree Narayana College, Nattika, I extend a warm welcome to you, sir.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
I also welcome all the research scholars, students, faculty members from various institutions, colleges, retired professors, principals of different colleges, and also the students to this program. I also welcome heads of department of our institution and all the faculty members, alumni members, and all our well-wishers to this program. Once again, I welcome you all. Thank you.
Thank you, teacher. For the presidential address, I would like to welcome our beloved principal, Dr. Reena Ravindran. Teacher.
Good morning, all. A respected guest of the day, Dr. Simon Thurtle, Head of the Department of Commerce, faculty members from all departments of my college, and faculty members from various institutes, and my dear students. Today, we have joined online for the inauguration of the National Webinar Series on Developing India at 75, organized by the Department of Commerce of Sree Narayana College, Nattika, as part of Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. As we all know, Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav is an initiative of the Government of India to celebrate and commemorate 75 years of independence of progressive India and the various glorious history of its people, culture, and achievements. Let me first of all congratulate the faculty members of the Department of Commerce for organizing this webinar series. Today, we'll discuss about sustainable financial models and fruits of freedom. We are indeed honored to have a resource person who is well-versed in this area and will be able to enlighten us about the progress India has made in the financial sector during these 75 years after independence and what the youth of India has to do further for sustainable development. I'm sure the program will be very informative and inspiring for all the participants. I wish the program all success and I welcome Dr. Simon Thurtle for the inaugural talk. Thank you. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, madam, and very good morning to one and all. At the outset, I congratulate SN College, Nattika for their great initiative to celebrate 75 years of India's independence, more specifically in terms of aligning with the program on Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. So I join the entire team in wishing you all the very best in terms of India's independence. And I wish and hope and pray that all Indians turn out to be competent enough, fit enough to enjoy the fruits of freedom, irrespective of caste, creed, color, income, or whatever barriers they are. So all the best wishes, and hopefully let us see a free India with every Indian being free in its true spirit. Now, my session is precisely captioned as sustainable financial models and the fruits of freedom. What I'm trying to bring about here is very simple. I think there will be absolutely no problem in terms of understanding this phenomenon. Phenomenon talks about sustainability. And this is not just something which is specific to finance or commerce or management. It is something which comes from the law of nature. Everything that is there in this world, in this universe, is wonderfully interwoven or blended in such a form that there is a mutual cohesive understanding of one another. There is inclusivity in the use of resources, and we all understand how interconnected we are. And that interconnection or that interlinkage is what ensures sustainability. So with this phenomenon, which is so universal, I am trying to put this in the perspective of financial models. So as I said, this is true for HR, this is true for science, this is true for technology, this is true for flora, fauna, animal life, plant life, and everywhere. But we are discussing this in the perspective of financial models in terms of how they tend to be sustainable and how they need to develop in a fashion or in a manner in which we come to learn about the fruits of freedom. If the sustainability is not taken care of, somewhere down the line, there will be some segment, some group, some branch, some part of the society which will not enjoy freedom. And when there is one group or one sect or one branch which does not enjoy freedom, freedom in its fullest form cannot be enjoyed. Now, how this happens in business trade, that is what we are trying to look at. So with these words of introduction, I'll just start with the presentation. Yeah, is the screen visible?
Yes, sir.
It is. Okay, so thank you. So this is a title, and I'm starting from here. We have all started hearing the terms globalization, liberalization, and we have enjoyed some of the fruits of the same. And I'm starting with some of the features that we actually talked about at that point of time. One exactly is in terms of free movement of goods and services. We want goods and services to move across the world on a very free basis. Then we said we need global standards, whether it is for trade, whether it is for production, whether it is for distribution, logistics, standards. And then we started talking about information symmetry. When the globe becomes very small, information becomes so symmetrical, so uniform, that you cannot have difference in prices or differences that prevail in the market, because people will start shifting from the place where the price is low to the place where the price is high. They will buy from the place where it is low, sell in the place where it is high, and there will be something like a uniform, perfect market. So these were some features that we started looking at, and it started developing on that line. Then we started talking about electronic platforms, electronic trade, e-commerce models, e-payments, and now we are moving into e-health, e-education. We ourselves are now on the electronic platform. So again, that made things, wherever you are, we are all coming together. Now I'm sitting in Trivandrum, and some of you might be sitting in different parts of the country or even different parts of the world, and you will be linking up with SN College Nattika. So for payments we do it, for trade we do it, for health we do it, for counseling we do it. That kind of an integration happened in trade and business. Large markets came up with lower cost. It became possible. They are possible. Limitations of time and space are broken. You talk about banks, there are it's all like on a virtual mode. You can do business anytime. You can do business from anywhere. There is no limitation on time and space. Same is happening now with education also. The COVID pandemic made it very closer. I can study at my free time from wherever I am in a virtual mode. So that also started happening in a big way. Then best use of resources became possible through movement of inputs. That means I need not locate a particular business in a place where actually all resources are there. Resources all became very mobile. You can get men from the best place in the world. You can get finance from the best financial market in the world, so on and so forth. And we started saying that the world is a global village. And extension of opportunities, world became the market. Sitting in Trivandrum or sitting even in a small village in Kerala, I can think of multiple business opportunities. It may be in the form of startups, or it may be in the form of virtual platforms like Flipkart or Amazon, or even trading or health services. I can look at the world as a market. That was something which developed. Sourcing inputs, which became something which happened on the basis of comparative advantage. I'll take funds from the place where it is cheapest. I'll take materials from the place where it is cheapest. I will take manpower from the place where it is cheapest. So all these things started happening. Now, exactly, if you look at the features, you'll see something that we said, okay, free movement of goods and services. Information is freely available on your fingertips. All kinds of virtual modes are there for doing this. And you can get the best resources from wherever they are, and you can sell to whatever part of the world where you have the best market. But suddenly the COVID pandemic or the corona started teaching us a lesson. Although we talked about all kinds of huge technologies for MNCs to operate, to sell, to buy, to source, suddenly at one point of time we found that, okay, all movements are not that easy. Difficulty or problems in the movement of goods, problems in terms of movement of men. We all started, and suddenly you might have heard we started talking about, because now we are looking at Azadi Ka Amar Mahotsav. People started talking in a big way about localization. The Prime Minister himself emphasized in Atmanirbhar Bharat, repeatedly he was talking about the term localization. Then he said, okay, now we have to look at local resources, we have to look at local manpower, we have to look at what is there in our immediate vicinity. So this is the other side of it. True, we enjoyed the fruits of globalization, and it is going to come to stay. But at the same time, there came to be a need or a realization of sustainability, whether it is in food production, whether it is in industry, whether it is in local market. We saw that happening even in the state of Kerala. Kerala started understanding the need for production of vegetables. Our production of vegetables increased significantly. We started understanding that even if certain travel modes are not available, how to sustain ourselves. We started looking at, as a nation, we started looking at a free India being in a position to have certain products on a sustainable mode. So these are some of the changes which actually came forth. And that is what we are trying to see as the backdrop in terms of enjoying fruits of freedom in a sustainable financial model that we're looking at. So now let us try and understand what is this sustainability. This is very, very important. Whatever be the activity in which you are, most of us would be now in education, higher education. Even there is issues of sustainability. Now the UGC has started talking about blended learning. We are talking about MOOCs. How to sustain educational institutions, how to sustain production, how to sustain health services, how to sustain our services, how to sustain our tourism, how to sustain our IT sector, how to sustain all the waste that we are creating, and how to see that we are using it in a biodegradable manner. So the whole issue is of sustainability. What is this talking about? It is exactly talking about inclusive, holistic approach where existence and growth of all units in a system are linked. The key to what we are discussing today. Existence and growth of all units in the system are linked. Now, that's why I said in flora, in fauna, nature itself is designed like that. If you look at animal life, we have snakes, we have frogs, we have insects, and they all must coexist. If you suddenly damage or kill off all the frogs, then insects will multiply. Snakes might not have food, so they are all linked. If you look at all the viruses and the bacteria that they're doing a good job in case of decomposing all the waste that is taking place. That means what one system gives out, another system is linked to it, and it has to operate in that form. This is the whole issue of biodegradability. That means we produce certain things which after use, whether it is e-waste or things like that, another system cannot observe it. So existence is at stake. We need plants, we need forest, we need rivers, we need ponds, we need the ocean. If you damage one of these things, your growth is not inclusive and holistic, and existence is at stake. Now, if this is science and nature, the same is applicable in all services, including industry, trade, and business, which we are going to discuss. If you look at our industry, or if you look at the economy first, let us start from the economy. We have the manufacturing sector, we have the agriculture, and we have the tertiary sector. Now, we saw at one point of time, agriculture was very important, and suddenly there came a shift into manufacturing and now into services. If you look, currently the composition, services enjoys the most. But let us understand that we cannot just thrive on services without manufacturing, or we cannot thrive on manufacturing and services with total neglect of agriculture. That means there is a close linkage between agriculture, manufacturing, and services. Again, you look at the sectoral case in case of, if you look at industry, manufacturing and services, specifically coming to industry. There, let us say services, it is growing in a big way now. IT, banking, warehousing, transportation, tourism, these are all growing. But can they grow without manufacturing? Because what is banking doing? They're giving funds for the business. For that, we need production. If production and manufacturing declines, it will have its impact on banking. It will have its impact on capital market. It will have its impact on financial services. So there is a very close association there. Again, you look based on scale of operations. Units are classified into tiny, small, medium, large. And if you look at the host of ancillary spares and parts which are used by the MNCs, they all come from tiny, small, medium enterprises. The role of the unorganized sector is very, very significant there. The role of the organized sector in terms of small units is very significant there. So MNCs cannot say that, okay, large units alone will survive. We can do on our own. They have a linkage with medium and small. So it's all connected. And even in the service sector, let us come to financial models, which we are now discussing. You look at insurance, you look at banking, you look at venture capital, you look at non-banking financial, all funds are moving between them. Crisis in one sector or problems in one sector will have a connect with others. So in this perspective, we need to look at inclusive, holistic approach of existence and growth. That means let us not survive or let us not try to grow at the cost of our core systems, supportive systems. Being in higher education, I cannot say that, okay, I'm in a college or university, I'm not bothered about what is happening in schools or what is happening in colleges or what is happening in industry. What is happening in industry will have its impact on education. What is happening in schools will have its impact on higher education. What is happening in the society in terms of what is happening even in international affairs will affect higher education. Just one example for you. We in the University of Kerala had a large number of applications for foreign students. And that is very important for NAC accreditation and all, as all of you will be knowing. But suddenly, when we had the problem in Afghanistan, we saw that many of these students are from Afghanistan. So something like what happened in Afghanistan is going to affect the higher education admission, not only in our university, many universities. So they are all cross-linked. So if we need to grow on a sustainable basis, we need perfect freedom, fruits of freedom, peaceful coexistence in the society, in the subsystems. We need a good banking system, not just for banks to succeed, but also for capital market, insurance, mutual funds to succeed. We need good capital market business for good investment opportunities, for good individual investors and foreign investors to grow. So they are all connected. They are all having a sustainable pact. If you look at all the great crises which has happened world over, let us look at what happened in subprime crisis. I'll come to that a bit later, where we are discussing lessons from crisis. You'll see it's all because of this. That means one sector wanted to grow at the cost of another sector, looking at their case alone. So sustainability was at stake. That is what we are actually trying to look at. Now, sustainability of financial systems. In the financial systems, we have institutions, we have markets, and we have services. Institutions, starting from regulators, like you have the RBI, you have SEBI, to the capital markets, banks, non-banking financial company, venture capital firms, merchant bankers. Markets, we have the money market and the capital market. The financial market is divided into the money market and the capital market. Capital market again into primary market and secondary market. And we have a host of financial services, starting like leasing, hire purchasing, venture capital, factoring, crowd financing, whatnot, all kinds of financial services. Now, if you look at what happened to India after freedom, we saw a big boost in the growth of these institutions. Basically, 90s saw a transformation when all of them started moving into the demat mode. Although we started talking about dematerialization in the financial sector through demonetization, but in the capital market, it started happening with the NSE, National Stock Exchange. So we had online trades, demat accounts, and lots of financial services coming up with innovative products, and the capital market being entirely technology embedded. So you have depositories, depository participants, demat accounts, online trading, market becoming very integrated and developed with lots and lots of products. You have equity, you have derivatives, you have fund of funds, you have dealing in indices. A host of innovative products started getting operated. But then there comes the issue of sustainability. If we were segmented, if we had the barricades which were separating us, then what happens in one sector will happen in that sector alone. But these sectors were all integrated. The institutional investors in the capital market were banks, were insurance companies, were mutual funds. So when they got affected, the market got affected, capital market got affected, so on and so forth. So all are connected. My task is not to just explain how these institutions functions. I'm talking about the sustainability part. All of them are connected and interdependent for sustainability. That means you cannot say that, okay, banks alone will grow, just as I said, educational institutions. They all have a close linkage. And the spillover impact in one, it does affect the others. So that is precisely what started happening when we are talking about the capital market issues. Now, this sustainability exactly is something which goes through a systems approach. And all of you know what is a system. Very simply, it is this. We take input, there is a throughput, otherwise called the process, and there is an output. Now, that is something which all of us know. But let us try and understand that in the financial models that we come across, let it be leasing, hire purchasing in terms of services, or crowd financing, angel financing, or let it be in terms of financial market, money market, capital market, primary market, IPOs, or let it be in terms of institutions. These systems have an interconnected base. And what is that base? The base is very simply this. This is not only true for finance. That's why I said it's not just true for finance and commerce. It's true for all other sectors. The base or the connect is just simply this, that the output from one system is what becomes the input to another system. And if there is a break in this, that's what I said. If suppose we are using plastics in a big way, which are not biodegradable, the output from that system is not becoming the input of another system, and it lies as a waste. So also when we are saying that when you're disturbing the balance in nature, the input-output relationship between systems get broken. So same thing is happening here. And that is what we learned from most of the crises which have happened globally across the world. And the efficiency actually talks about the pace or the space and the ease with which output of one system becomes the input of the other system. That's what we are trying to look at when we are talking about sustainability. Output to input relationship. Linking systems, forward linkage, backward linkage. Let us look at the example of higher education institutions. You are a college, and this is something which you can very easily understand. I said your sustainability is also based on what happens behind you and what happens ahead of you. As an institution, what happens before you is students have to come from schools after their +2, and they must join for graduation. So if there is some problem in terms of quality or in terms of bringing them up, that problem gets reflected in higher education. And again, you are processing them. For what purpose? To become part of the industry, to become part of entrepreneurs, to become employers, to become policymakers, to become businessmen. And if they don't, it again indicates that there is some problem with your system. So what I'm trying to say is the pace or the speed with which school children become college children and the speed with which college students get employment or higher education or become entrepreneur is the movement in the system. School system gave an output, higher education system used it as an input. Higher education gave an output which the industry or the employers used as an input. It is sustainable. But imagine you created graduates and postgraduates and gave them as an output. And these graduates and postgraduates are not finding an employment, or they are not finding mobility to higher learning, or they are not turning out to become employers or capable to do their business. Then your system created an output, which is not becoming an input into another system, which is something which points at the sustainability of your institution. Because you created an output which is not becoming an input in the next system. That is what we are trying to look at in terms of financial model. System one creates something, it must get observed immediately with the minimum time, with the minimum efforts. They must become part of system two, and system two creates an outcome which must become part of system three, so on and so forth. This is simply what we are trying to talk about sustainability in terms of financial models. If they do not happen, or if they are not linked, understand that there is something wrong in the system. If you look at all kinds of fraudulent systems, it's all just like this. Suppose somebody is saying, we will offer you 40% interest on deposits. I'm just giving one model. So you will be happy that you're going to get 40% interest on your deposits or 24% interest on your deposits. But the prime duty of the person or the beneficiary or the customer is to understand the system. If they are going to give you 24% interest, they are taking input in the form of funds. What are they going to do with this? They should lend. If they have to lend to somebody, that borrower who takes money from this institution, the interest that they are paying the customer itself is 24%, which means lending should happen something like 35, 38%. And the person who has taken a loan from this institution, maybe at 30% or 35%, he must create a profit out of that. And from that profit, he should repay the loan. So how is this going to continue on and on? That examination is very, very important. So if this is the same thing happens, if you look at what happens in insurance, what happens in mutual funds, what happens in crowd financing, what happens in angel investing, and what has happened, maybe not just 75 years, historically over the entire globe, you will see certain breakages where sustainability was held at stake. That is what we have to actually look at when we are talking about financial models that sustain itself. Now I'm talking about lessons to learn. There are a number of lessons globally, regionally, nationally, across the world. We are now talking about some lessons in the cooperative sector. We have seen lessons from the microfinance sector. And we have seen the Great Depression, two strong lessons which we have globally learned, into which India was impacted, but the crisis happened somewhere else. One is the subprime crisis, and the other one is the crisis of Southeast Asian nations. The subprime crisis, which happened in 2008, origin was in America. It is a case where a financial model collapsed because of indulging in non-sustainable activities, where a lot of people who initially thought they were enjoying freedom substantially faced problems in terms of ability to use that freedom, and it affected the entire globe. What happened there? What happened there is very simple. See, banks were having a lot of funds with them in surplus because industry was not taking loans from the bank. They were going for their project financing, big project financing, basically through the capital market route. So banks found themselves to have surplus funds which were not going as loans. So what happened? They decided to somehow see that loans go. Industrial loan was not taking off. So they resorted to retail financing. Or in retail financing also, more specifically, housing finance, home loans. So they resorted to a massive home loan mela or a home loan drive. They started going on pumping and motivating and persuading people to take home loans, lowering interest rate, giving incentives and all. And they were saying, you all can, those who have one home, buy a second home, take loan and buy second home. So even when there was no demand for housing, they started artificially pushing money and creating demand for housing. So what happened? Home loan, the institutions considered home loan to be a secure or a safe haven because land is given as security. So you give your land as security, take a home, take a loan, construct a house or renovate the house or construct a new house, whatever. So suddenly when huge amounts were loaned for housing, the price of land skyrocketed. And when the price of land increased like anything, these people decided to do one thing. Since the price of land, which was earlier low, is now very high, they said you can show that land again now with a new value and take further loans. So this was happening in a big way, and they called it at subprime, as many of these customers were not good customers. They did not look at their credit standing. They do not look at the repayment capacity, just free loans, because they wanted for money to go as loans and show some business is happening. Now, ultimately, these banks knew that this is a risk for them. Much of the money might not come back. So they securitized all these loans with big merchant bankers like Lehman Brothers, Goldman Sachs, big merchant bankers. And what these merchant bankers did, they created underlying securities on the basis of this, gave this loans as assets and created securities, which is called mortgage-backed securities, and they were being traded in the capital market. Now this happened 2008-9. Suddenly, the loan money was not coming back. So when the loan money stopped coming back, the mortgage-backed securities lost the value. Price of land declined substantially. And even the good buyers or the good borrowers stopped repaying the loan because the price of the security that they have given, the land that they have given, is decreased. So they thought, you take back the land, there's no problem. So banks which were running home loan melas started running land melas. They had lots of security land. The land price has gone down by 10% or 5% of the original value, 95% decline in the price of land. And people are not paying the loan and taking the land also, says you take the land. So that created a big crisis. And ultimately, you know what happened at the end of the whole thing. We saw big merchant bankers and financial institutions like Lehman Brothers and all collapsing. And the spillover impact, these big merchant bankers were the investors in capital market across the globe, including India, FIIs. So indices fell down. It created close of institutions, loss of jobs, so on and so forth. A similar kind of thing happened in the Southeast nation crisis also. What I'm trying to bring across here is artificially pushing demand, artificially trying to see that we want, see here the lesson was through housing loans, we tried to sustain banks alone. But the impact was not just on banks, it affected FIIs, it affected capital market, it affected jobs, it affected other industries, it affected movement, it affected airlines. So many sectors got affected substantially. This is the issue of sustainability. You cannot just temporarily pump something and create a system which is for the time being alone capable of sustaining itself. It is something which is, it is something which is needed in the long run. In the long run. So this is something which we need to learn, how to sustain systems, how to build. So we have to understand, even when we talk about microfinance or when we talk about angel, what are the people doing with this money? How are they going to lend? And if that has to be successful, how are the borrowers going to use it? So it is all connected. If agriculturist is not going to get adequate returns, the microfinance for agriculture is not going to be successful, in which case the MFI microfinance institution is going to face problems. This is what we have to actually understand when we talk about financial models. And when this is broken down the line, we have failures in order to sustain ourselves, and at least one sector or one segment in the society feel that they are not getting the due which they are entitled to. That is what we're actually looking into. Then came the shift, as I said, globalization to localization, recent thoughts. This is what we're discussing, Azadi Ka Amrit Utsav. Regional retailing, local opportunities, local resources, local manpower. That means yes, we have to see what we can take from the immediate vicinity and the advantages of a global market. We cannot say that, okay, let us always look at that part and forget about the immediate vicinity. There are many things which are local opportunities, local resources, and we have to develop a sense of self-reliance, a self-sufficiency within us. Earlier, we thought when Mahatma Gandhi was talking about independent India, even before India became independent, he said, let us have everything which we need. No imported goods, no imported materials. So self-sufficiency. But suddenly we understood that we are not globally fit to produce everything. Some other nations can produce it cheaper. So we shifted from that to self-reliance. Now again, after the pandemic, we are saying, okay, self-reliance is good, but we need to also have some self-sufficiency, our own softwares, our own defense equipments, our own research, our own innovation. So this is where certain things will teach us a lesson that we need to balance. Not that globalization is immaterial. Yes, it is going to stay with the technology, with the e-models, it is going to stay. But alongside with that, we also have an understanding that local resources, local manpower, local opportunities also have a say or a stay as far as the what we call sustainability is concerned. This is what has to be emphasized when we are talking about the use of financial resources. Fruits of freedom, the last part of what we are going to discuss. Fruits of freedom cannot be enjoyed in terms of visualizing individuals, institutions, or systems as islands. Once again, I'm putting that within quotes. Fruits of freedom cannot be enjoyed when individuals or institutions or systems see them as islands. That was what happened with a system of banking in US. That at times happens with institutions, that at times happens with individuals. Individuals, I'll start from individuals. If I consider myself, okay, I'm getting my salary, I have my job, my promotion is okay, everything is okay with me, so I can live happily. But keep in mind that anything that happens to others is at some point of time pointing figures at us also. When we saw the COVID pandemic happening for the first time, I don't think we were that much pained. Okay, this is something which happened in China, Wuhan, somebody got affected. Then somebody says somebody in Kerala got it, so we are a bit pained. Then we understood that this is going to affect there, and then suddenly some people who directly got infected, who directly lost their jobs, who directly had some of their family members losing their lives, they are the people who understood it. And it is when we face it that we understand that. And at that moment, we understand that which was somebody else's pain today has become our pain. So nobody is an island. So also institution. I can't say that, okay, no problem. We will keep getting students. Our students will have no problem at all. Something which is there outside can at some moment. That means we need a peaceful coexistence between all our interconnected systems and practices. That is inclusivity. Equity. I'll come to that a bit later. So inclusiveness and equity and sustainability, each of this I'm coming separate, which are basically emerging from interconnected systems in the market. These three things will happen only when you understand the interconnectivity, the interlinkages between financial system. There is suppose I take the capital market. In the capital market, two subsegments are primary market and secondary market. If IPOs are very weak, it has an impact on the secondary market. In the secondary market, if equity, derivatives, investment, speculation, all these things are not balanced in a very wise, coherent form, then there is going to be backfiring. I can't say that, okay, let everybody deal in derivatives. You see mutual funds. If everybody is dealing in, nobody wants to have an NFO, everybody want to have derivative, you will not get an adequate hedging impact. Similarly, if everybody is investing and nobody wants to hedge risk, you cannot have strong derivatives. So we need its presence to be balanced. So also, if everybody says, okay, let us all put money in the bank, and there are no takers for loans, banking will suffer. If there are problems in health and disaster in some part and they are insured, whereas no one else is taking insurance, then the sector cannot survive. So they are all connected. So also tiny, small, medium, large, manufacturing services. So also agriculture, manufacturing, tertiary, they're all connected. That interconnection actually comes from these three factors: inclusivity, equity, and obviously the sustainability part of it. Now, what is inclusivity? As I already said, association between sectors. You look at this, you can see this all around. See, there was a point of time when IT was booming like anything. Everybody is working in Infosys, Wipro, this, that, and all. But there cannot be an expansion beyond a particular level unless the other sectors which depend on IT does function. Now again, IT is coming in a big way because COVID pandemic, blended learning, e-platforms, e-payments, e-finance, e-health, e-counseling. So lots of technology is required for that. But this can happen only when the underlying activities happen. The investment of IT in education will thrive only when education thrives. The investment of IT in manufacturing will thrive only when manufacturing thrives. Airlines is growing in a big way. But if airlines has to thrive, people should move from one place to another. If the reason for which people move are not there, then airlines cannot thrive. So also with transportation, warehousing, banking. So sectoral linkage. Ultimately, we all need food to eat and survive. So agriculture is important. As I said, the large number of spares and parts and support services for the large scale sector come from the tiny small scale sector. The micro industries, from the MSME sector, if you look at the micro, medium, small industries, the micro and the medium industries, basically the micro sector is creating bulk of the employment, bulk of the production, which is contributing to the GDP. So also the impact of the unorganized sector. Okay, we cannot say that, okay, statutory benefits for the organized sector and that alone is sufficient. What is happening to the unorganized sector is also at some point of time going to have its impact on the organized sector. So these are all interwoven. And we have to see that let all of us live together happily. I cannot say that, okay, I'm in manufacturing, so manufacturing is same. I'm safe. I'm in health, so health is going to be having no problem. I'm in education, so these are all having its own. We have to see that there is an inclusive growth. Even within the institution, within each institution, I cannot say that I'm in innovation, the other part is in accounting, or that part is only in servicing, so they are not that important. Every unit or subsystem has got its own. So we have to look at an inclusive model. Financial models which give the fruits of freedom are essentially those which actually thrive on this inclusivity. That is the first part of the first essential element that we need to take care of when we talk about fruits of freedom. Inclusivity again happens when there is association among financial subsystems. That is what we are discussing today. I already mentioned that. Today, in a big way, we talk about angel investing for startups or venture capital financing, VC, for new ventures. NBFCs, even NBFCs and banks have got a strong connectivity. Why RBI intervened and asked NBFCs to have their own gold loan standards? Because NBFCs were giving big amount of loans based on gold as a security. So there was a problem that suppose the price of gold falls, they are giving 95% loan to value of the asset, 95%. That means if you pledge gold worth 1 lakh rupees, you get a loan of 95,000 rupees, which is not the economic standardized principle. It says around 80%, but these people are giving 90%. So when they give 90%, what is happening? If the price at any point of time of gold will fall down, there is a chance that you'll have a crisis. Now, this crisis will not get confined to NBFCs alone. Loans are given by NBFCs, but where do these NBFCs get their money from? It comes in a big way from banking. So if NBFCs collapse, banks will also have its impact. So also if the capital market collapse, many domestic institutions which are mutual funds or insurance or banking firms will have its impact. So health of the financial system is based on an interconnectivity of what happens between savings, between systems which use the savings, and with the systems which are borrowing from the institutions. That means investors, savers, borrowers, investors, speculators, they all have a interface. And you cannot exploit one and thrive at the cost of another. That is the lesson that we're talking about when we're talking about inclusivity. Second important principle that we need to have in sustainable financial models is being just and fair to all the stakeholders. If you are deceiving somebody, let it be in terms of pricing, or let it be in terms of quality of the product, or let it be in terms of system deception. That means we are doing everything. We are paying our employees well. We are giving the good quality product, but we are not bothered about certain service providers for us. In business models, there are some people who are giving us raw materials, some people to whom we engage in terms of our agents or our franchisees. So we are not bothered about that. We are only bothered about our internal systems. Even there, we need to be fair. From whom you buy to whom you sell, that in interconnectivity. So equity is being just. It's very simple. See, what are we as individuals supposed to do? We have just got one simple duty: be fair to the people with whom we deal. If I am a teacher, I need to be fair to my students, thereby to the parents, to the institution which I work, to being fair, being just. So when I looked at the subprime crisis, what was happening there? They were not unfair to the banks or the institutions that they were working, but they were unfair in terms of judging the other subsystems, and they believed that this will go on like that. So equity is being just and fair to the subcomponents or the subparts that are actually there. And sustainability, the third one, understanding how each element in the financial system is connected. So I cannot just, I'm an investor in the mutual fund. I don't have anything in the capital market, so I'm not bothered about capital market. From the mutual fund, this goes to the capital market. Or I have taken an insurance product. I don't know about banking. I don't know about anything. My mind is always insurance. Insurance funds move into the capital market. They move into the mutual fund. They move into venture capital finance. They move into merchant banking. So it is all linked. It is just like what we talked in terms of the COVID. It is not just a COVID or a corona. It has its impact in travel. It has its impact in tourism. It has its impact in transportation. It has its impact on government services. Everywhere it is there. So we cannot say that this is something which somebody else alone will take care of. understanding each element in the financial system, they are connected. They can grow together and not as islands. We are alone going to grow. Even when we say that I'm protected because I have a government job, there are certain other things in the industry or in the financial models which are going to affect us. So there is a deep connect. There is a deep connect, and that connect is in operations, and that connect which exists in operations will have its impact on the growth as well. So that is actually what we are talking about, sustainability. So essentially, these three elements, when they go together, when we link inclusivity, equity, and sustainability with the financial system, understanding that we are just to those who are before us, with those from whom we draw, and again those who succeed us, or to those whom we give our output, and you have a firm understanding of this, then we enjoy the fruits of freedom, because it's freedom for all. It's not just freedom for one party, or it's not just freedom for one part of it. It is freedom for all, which is important. And we are actually talking about, or we are actually looking at that kind of a freedom, which is very essential for the entire group. This is something which is important in our understanding of the industry, because even we are saying industry is for profit, industry is for wealth maximization. Fine, there's no problem. But even profits or wealth cannot come when we are in an exploitative mode, when we are trying to take undue advantage from one system without looking at its spillover impact. The spillover impact is this is very clear when we talk about banks, when we talk about financial institutions, because when they take money, they are saying we are taking at this cost, so we are lending at this cost. The borrower is doing this investment at this cost. They are all intertwined. So that is actually the fruits of freedom. The fruits of freedom talks about financial models which support the entire cycle that leads into economic development. That is where we actually talk about. We need production, we need employment, we need savings, which will create income. Income will again be cycled through financial models. That will create more production. Production will again create investment. Investment will again create income, savings, and it goes on like that. But somewhere in this movement, it is just like a better way of understanding this for those who are in the commerce domain is the working capital cycle. Cash, raw materials, work in progress, finished goods, receivables, cash. If this does not circulate in that form, you have cash, no production, or you purchase raw materials, there are no means to convert them into finished goods, then the next operation is affected. Same thing happens in the financial models that you have. They all have to have a service which is behind them or before them, and a service or a sector of subsystems which follow them. And they all need to move in a very strong, blended, cohesive mode, because they are all connected. And let us all understand that all of us, just like all of us as human beings are connected with nature and with our living environment, we are all connected in terms of the business models that we have. Without the connecting models on either side or on left or right, up and down, moving appropriately, we cannot find success. And when that success is not there, just with islands of growth, some MNCs booming, one or two sectors booming, one or two states growing, we cannot find success. It is a totality or a holistic model which should actually create a success, which should actually bring the blended fruits of growth for the entire community. So our nation is basically, after independence, we have understood that well, because if you look at all the great crises of the world, India was reasonably insulated. Even when it came to the subprime crisis, we had reasonably good controls thanks to RBI, SEBI and all. Not that we had no impact. We had some impact, but we had reasonably looked into good regulations in place. And with that regulations in place, we could manage to some extent. But even there, we cannot say that India is India alone. India is also part of a larger global system, and we need to bring over them. So I think in our research, in our learnings, in our understanding of freedom, let us be more comprehensive. Let us be more holistic. Let us be more inclusive so that sustainable financial models come to thrive. So once again, thanks for this good opportunity. And I hope you would continue a lot of more initiatives on development at 75. So you will be looking at this from different perspectives and understand all these perspectives somewhere have a convergence also. So that will give you better models for growth. So thank you so much. If you have anything to raise in the form of questions or clarifications, I will be willing to do that now. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Now
Thank you.
it's time for discussion. Dear participants, kindly raise your doubts either by unmuting your mic or use the chat box.
Hello, sir. Is it audible? Hello, sir. Is it audible?
Yeah, you're audible.
Sir, my name is Vimito Vijay. I'm from Thrissur. I'm a former student of SN College Nattika.
Okay, good.
Sir, it's an honor to meet you, sir, in person. And the question I want to ask is that as you spoke of sustainability, where we cannot survive without one another, but in this case, to have a balanced economy, we need a help from each and every sector, right, to keep a balanced economy.
Correct.
And freedom is the backbone of the connection to have that to keep a balanced chain, isn't it, sir?
Correct.
So my question is, do the people who are working in each and every sector in India have the liberty to attaining that freedom with fair and just?
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. The question is very pertinent. See, do every person in every institution have that freedom? When I was presenting the similar session on this, I was at that point of time talking about the subprime crisis and how it impacted different parts of the world. See, even in India, I'll just give one example since you raised the question. Specifically in financial institutions, now these are the days where you see even bank managers, not from private sector, even public sector banks, they move around in residents association asking for people to become customers in a bank because they all have targets. So in most of the financial services and financial models, you have institutions where individuals have targets fixed for them. So they must achieve. Insurance must sell this much insurance product, you must sell this much and all that. So when that is coming up, what happens is, as you rightly said, there are cases where sustainability is not looked into. That is the reason why I think now there is a change in many organizations because they have understood that some of their practices are not turning out to be sustainable. Just give one example because you raised this question. See, in India itself, I'm not naming the organization, we had an experience where a person from insurance comes and tells that, sir, you take one product, this product is good, there is money back, there is this, that, and all, lots of benefits. But we have no time, so we have said, I don't want. Now, after his persistent efforts, somehow just to pacify him, I said, okay, I'll take one small policy for some amount not because I need it, but you want to meet a target, you want to get a customer, so fine, I'll do that. So suddenly he gave me a form, and as many of us do, even those who are financially literate do, they'll ask for the first page of your SSLC book or your Aadhaar or something like that. They fill all they themselves will fill all the columns, and they'll put some X marks. You sign here, 6-7 pages are signed, and they will take the product, which is a wrong way, but many of us do it in that form. Now, suddenly while doing this, he said, sir, what is your age? This was around 10 to 15 years back. So we said, more or less relating to the period when the subprime crisis was happening and its after effect was there, around 17, 18 years, or maybe 12, 13 years back. So suddenly he said, sir, because your age is above 45, you should take health insurance, which is mandatory for insurance, because if you have risk of BP, cholesterol, cardiac problem, the premium is slightly high. So I said, sir, I have no time and no interest in this. If I have to go for a doctor and medical checkup and all, I don't want. So immediately he said, no, sir, then we'll do something. You know what he did? They have a set of doctors who will sign without medical examination. Now I'm talking about the issue of sustainability. why there is a clause in insurance that those who have got above 45 years must do a medical examination? Because they are prone to risk. Now, we have a set of employees who are flouting that rule against their own organization because they somehow want policies to come in. Just precisely answering to the question. Because I have a target. And if I'm asking everybody to go to a doctor and take a medical examination, they are not going to take your policy. So you flout that and create a set of doctors, just like your driving license issues. You just pay these things and you get that. Earlier, it was, in many cases, that was there. So they do that. Now, when they do that, imagine I am a patient. I am a patient with high risk BP and cholesterol. I'm taking an insurance policy without mentioning this. The chances of my health risk is very high, and the policy amount on that case is showing that I don't have this risk. So it is backfiring and against the interest of the, that's why we are saying being fair, being equitable, being just. It is not happening. So if there are, suppose, hundreds of people who do it in this form, imagine the liability of the institution. So as you rightly said, these targets do happen. I have somehow to get my target, so I do it, and I'm unfair. So I become exploitative. Maybe some other sector will fail, or maybe the same institutional sector will fail. So is it right or wrong? Definitely it is wrong. And
then what kind of measures we can take to avoid
the measures? That's what I'm coming to. The measures that we can take here is not look at the overall sustainability part first before incentivizing something. Incentivizing, yes, you have to do. You have to incentivize and you have to promote certain things, but it should not be at the cost of another system. So, for example, if I'm going to incentivize getting students to my institution without looking at how it affects other institutions, that will backfire at some time. Now, on that there has been rethinking. That means
but that's been happening. Right?
Yeah, it is happening because promotion. Yeah, promotion. If you're saying promotion is only going to be based on what you do, irrespective of what happens to the institution, that is why even if you look at Japan, many of the things which they incentivized in that form, they are subsequently withdrawn. Some of those things are productivity versus health. They said that, okay, late night staying, large type of business activities, which is creating family issues, don't do that. They have understood that. So the supportive elements and supportive systems, how they work together, there is a realization coming up. Yes, with internal targets, many of the institutions are pushing work because this one reason is we want the institution first to exist. Forget about what other things will happen. First, get the institution to have its place. But in the long run, when it is backfiring, that's why even regulators are looking at that. If you look at circuit breaks and all that, which is happening in the capital market, that is because they're saying we don't want this to grow at a particular pace. You see that it is a balanced growth. It is a healthy growth. So that is slowly that shift is there. But obviously, as you said, if I'm looking only at myself, this problem will definitely exist. Any other question?
So thank you for your time, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sir?
In fact, I am also from basically from Trichu, but I am for quite some time working in Trivandrum now.
Thank you.
Hello.
Yeah, sure.
Myself, Vishnu V.S. Am
Yes,
I
Vishnu.
audible, sir?
Yeah, you're audible. Good morning.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Sir, how does microfinance institutions foster economic regional growth in our country?
Okay, good. Microfinance definitely, because to whom do they lend? They lend to small players, whatever be, whether it's in agriculture or in business. They are providing credit in two forms. One should be what I put over here is we heard about some microfinance institutions also exploiting the society because they looked only at profit. In the right spirit, looking at good microfinance institutions, what they do is they give small amounts of loans to people who are street vendors, to people who are in the unorganized sector, to people who are small agriculturists, to people who are tiny spare parts or ancillary part producers. And how does this support economic growth? What do these people do? They create some kind of income. They create some kind of products. They create some small services, which goes to the medium sector. So microfinance institutions are income creators, they are employment creators, and they are also supporters for the medium and the large scale sector. So in that way, they are providing some finance. Now that finance might not be that huge, just like a bank or a financial institutions, and it might not have that stringent measures of meeting your what do you call KYC norms and institutional norms. So with a lesser kind of regulations, they make their credit more accessible, and thereby they support the economy.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you for your valuable time.
Any other question?
Hello,
If
sir.
yeah.
I think we can wind up the session.
Yeah. There are no more questions. Wind up. So thank you so much, and I thank the head of the department, all the faculty members. I remember being in your institution, I think 2 years, 3 years back. Sometime I was there. I don't know when it was. I think in 18 or 19, something like that.
It
So
was
anyway,
in
now we are in the online.
2019 June, sir.
Yeah, 19 June I
June.
was there. I remember.
Yes.
I think it was associated with NAC or something.
NAC, yes.
Yeah.
And
So all the
NAC
best to your
was,
institution.
NAC
Was
was
yeah,
a
wonderful.
a third assessment is over. Third cycle of assessment was over in March 2020
Okay.
March, and we got 2.68. Sir. We are in the B plus grade.
Yeah. So you're improving and coming up. So very soon we have see you all in A grade.
We are trying, sir.
Thank you so much. So wish you all the very best, and hopefully we'll meet again on a non-virtual mode someday.
Sir, we'll meet again.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Sir,
you.
it's time to propose vote of thanks on behalf of Sree Narayana College, Nattika. First of all, I would like to thank our respected and beloved principal, Dr. Reena ma'am, for the wholehearted support for this webinar series. Not just for this webinar series, for all the endeavors, I would like to thank her. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
We should understand where we were in 1947 and where we are now and where we will be. So that's why we are organizing this webinar series, Developing India at 75, in collaboration with the Kerala State Higher Education Council. And I know that we have started this webinar series with a very wonderful keynote address, since we have Dr. Simon sir as a resource person for the inaugural talk. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for the wonderful and enlightening session, sir.
Thank you so much. My privilege also to be with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
I would like to thank our IQAC coordinator, Dr. Shankaran sir, head of the Department of Commerce, Srimati Praveena Vijayan, my colleagues, all teaching and non-teaching staff of Sree Narayana College, Nattika. The success depends on the participation. So I would also like to thank all the participants from various colleges and universities in India. I would like to thank and see you all on Monday at 10:15 a.m. for the second session. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you, madam. I'm leaving. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you all. See you all on Monday at 10:15 a.m. Thank you, Reena ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, teacher.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Vishnu.